Greetings, my lovelies, and welcome to the Weaver Circle. Today, we are going to talk about creating worlds. Thank you, Frank, for that intro. And I will be updating you on my progress with Camp NaNoWriMo. So let's get started. Now this video is mostly for fantasy and science fiction writers. You know, the people who tend to have to create an entirely new world from scratch. But you can take these things I'm going to talk about today in a smaller scale. Just, you know, bear in mind you have to sort of scale down the grandness. So, without further ado, here are 5 things to start thinking about when creating your world. Thing number 1. Are you going to have one country or a bunch of countries? Single locations like a single city or a single country can make your writing a whole lot easier. That's a lot less that you have to try to keep track of. But on the other hand, when you have more than one country, more than one culture, more than one location, that creates for a richer world for your reader and a more engaging world for your reader. You can always add worlds or locations in later if you're not like me and kind of plan grand scheme of things, because in The Serpent's Coils I do have multiple locations, and while in the first book they're only in one country, I have planned for them to travel essentially the world later on. But as you write and you go, if you go, hey, I want them to go out of this country or to a new location, you can always add that in later. Just follow the same process that you're going to do for your initial placement. Now, a helpful hint for those of us who are creating multiple countries or worlds or places, you don't necessarily have to worry about connecting them right away. My recommendation to save your sanity is just create everything that you need first and then worry about how you're gonna mesh them up later. Because it'll be a lot easier to mesh them up if after the fact, like say if you have an Arctic country and a desert country and you're struggling at how you're gonna mesh them together, it's not always going to work. But if you have a couple of other countries in between there, you're like, oh, okay, well I can arrange it this way, then it's a lot easier once you have everything. Thing number 2, topography. Not sure I'm saying that right, or basically land masses. Are there mountains? Are there forests, valleys, deserts? What are the landscapes of your country? Mountain ranges can sometimes be natural borders. Forests can also be natural borders. You can also have like multiple types in a certain country, but you do have to segue into them with some logic. And a good example of this is Tamora Pierce's Tortall. In the middle of the country there's a desert, but in the surrounding areas there's mountains that go into hills that end up becoming the desert. There's a natural progression, and even though you are creating sci-fi or fantasy worlds, logic still kinda has to apply unless you provide another reason for it not to. Thing number 3, water. Water is the lifeblood of civilization. We cannot exist without it unless you have an alternative to it. Keyword here for everything. If you're not gonna use it, you need to fucking have an alternative because it has to make sense. So when it comes to waterways, that's gonna be your rivers, lakes, streams, marshes, oceans. Those are a big one. And every culture revolves around water, even in deserts. The oases that are there, the rainfalls that come, rivers that come and go with the dry and wet seasons. Water is crucial, even more so than food. You can only last 3 days without water before you die. You can go 7 days without food before you really start to have any negative effects of it. So water, think about it. And just like with the mountains, your rivers, lakes, and what have you can also serve as natural borders so that you don't have to worry about drawing the lines. And then if you're gonna have water, You need to think about how your people get the water. If they're farmers on the inland, do they use tributaries or well systems? Are they coastal people? Are they islanders? How do the islanders get fresh water? Or have they evolved with the ability to drink salt water? So when you think about these in segments, you have to also think about the people that live there and how they are going to use it. Thing number 4, climate. This is a big one because it can also be a major plot point of your story, like it is with Game of Thrones. Their climate or their seasons play a major role in the driving force for a lot of their characters. Winter is coming along with the White Walkers. Or like in The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe with Narnia. The land is cursed to be in eternal winter, so everyone has to figure out how to survive in that. The climate is going to be a big factor in how it affects the people's lives, because that's how they can travel. Harsher climates where there's fewer resources, whether it be rain, wood, farming land, is going to create hardier people. The resources that they do have are worth their weight in gold, and usually what they don't have, they will steal from those who do have. Now, if you're in a milder climate, you don't really have to worry so much about not having resources, because you know that, oh yeah, it's a bad year, but I had a good year before, so you know, I had this store, or I don't need to worry about conservation because it will always be there. So people in milder climates can be a bit more wasteful. Now with these two variations of harsh and mild, that can also lead to a conflict between the two. To whereas those who don't want from those who do, or those who have a lot really don't care about those who don't. Just a few things to keep in mind. And the last thing number 5, cities. We can finally get to where the people are. Now I'm not saying plan out every single town, village, or whatever that your place is gonna have, but you do kind of need to have a few major ones, like your capitals or your major thoroughfares, trade places, places of learning, places of worship, the major pillars of your country, city, planet need to be thought out in where they are. For example, Varance, the capital city of Andros in my new book, The Serpent's Coils. The capital city is along the coast, so it has a lot of access to ports where there's a lot of wealth and people from other cultures coming in. The palace is built on the top of a long hill that backs up to the cliffs, providing a natural fortification defense. So those who have money are at the top, and those who don't have money are on the bottom. That's just an example, but like I said, you can set these things up however you want them to. These are just things that you need to keep in mind as you're thinking about it. You also need to think of things like trade cities, like for example, if you have a big forest, and you're obviously going to have people around there who do lumber. If you have a town that's near a bunch of waterways, that's a perfect place for a trade city. If you have someplace that is built along in the mountains, there's your miners or your goat herders or sheep. So each different city is gonna have to fit in the location of where you place it. So you choose your locations wisely. So on to Camp NaNoWriMo. And I'm gonna have to be perfectly honest. My first week, not so good. I think I've only met my word goal once this week, but I have written every single day. So there is that. In my defense, not to make excuses, I have started a new job. So my brain is kind of like, but I'm striving to be better this week. And once I'm done with this video today, I am going to do a massive word sprint to try to catch up on my word count. So at least I can start off this week where I'm supposed to be. So that's all that I have for you today. If you think that I missed something or I didn't explain something well enough and you have a question, please comment below. I will get back to you with that as soon as possible. Next week we are going to talk about people and cultures. Well, we're going to have to now because that's what I said we'll do. So now we're going to talk about the people and the culture. So tune in next week. And if you have any questions about creating people, cultures, religions, and all the other sorts of things, please also comment below. I will look at that and have those ready for you next time. If you want to see what else I'm doing, you can follow me along on my social media. And if you want to help support me continuing to put out content like this and other things, then you need to click on the link below and head over to my Patreon page and become a supporter today. Thank you once again for coming. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and that if you are doing Camp NaNoWriMo, that you are riding strong. And let me know, because your strength gives me strength. So I will see you all next time. Bye!